The highly anticipated showdown between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou had a plot twist that caught many by surprise. While Fury was the overwhelming favorite, the fight unfolded in an unexpected manner. The real shocker came when the judges' scorecards were unveiled after the 10th round. Fury was announced the winner by a split decision, and jaws dropped all around. In an intriguing turn of events, despite Ngannou's knockdown in the 3rd round and his superior performance in power punches, he ended up on the losing side. The fight's outcome shed light on a series of challenges that boxing grapples with in the world of combat sports today, contributing to its declining status. So, what are these issues and how are they contributing to the fall of boxing? You know, it's like a broken record. The big fights in boxing just don't seem to happen. This is one of the major headaches the sport's dealing with nowadays. Well, there are a bunch of reasons behind it, and they're as annoying as a fly in your soup. First off, negotiating fights these days is like navigating a freaking minefield. Who gets the TV rights? Who calls the shots? You won't believe the little things that can make these negotiations go up in smoke. Back in the day, small trivial stuff was, well, trivial. Fighters and promoters understood that to make a fight, they'd have to give a little. But now it's like a game of, I want it all my way. Ego and greed often stick their noses into the mix, making negotiations tougher than a $2 steak. Take the Terence Crawford vs. Errol Spence showdown, for instance. This fight should have gone down ages before it finally did. Both fighters were chomping at the bit to throw down, but their promoters couldn't agree on squat. These kinds of mess-ups have plagued the boxing world, and fans are left pulling their hair out. Then, out of the blue, we got the Gervonta Tank Davis vs. Ryan Garcia fight announcement. Fans went bonkers because this sort of high-stakes battle hardly ever comes along. It was a mega fight between two prime athletes, and they could have charged an arm and a leg for tickets, and folks still would have coughed up. It was one of those rare moments where the fans actually got what they wanted when they wanted it. Aside from the whole negotiation mess, a ton of promotions and fighters just won't budge when it comes to their shiny records. They'd rather keep their winning streak alive, safeguard their reputation, or hold on to their titles no matter what. Take Floyd "Money" Mayweather, for instance. He's hailed as one of the greatest ever, right? His unbeaten run is legendary. But while it's impressive, a bunch of folks raised an eyebrow at his tactics to protect that perfect record. Mayweather got slammed for handpicking his opponents and ducking certain fights to avoid getting that L on his record. But he wasn't having any of it. Cherry-picking opponents isn't just a Mayweather thing. It's everywhere in boxing today, especially with up-and-coming fighters who want to keep their records squeaky clean for the cash, the glory, and their ego. But this obsession with the undefeated title, it's a bit of a curse for boxing, really. It's stopping fighters from taking on real challenges and is killing the buzz among fans who want to see those epic matchups. The boxing legends before this trend never shied away from a loss, understanding that the possibility of failure is what makes people tune in. If you find a boxer with a flawless record, they probably haven't faced the best competition. Now compare that to MMA. It's like a whole different world because of the cutthroat competition. Fighters there are ready to risk their precious undefeated streaks against opponents just as lethal, and they'll jump into title fights against others on their level or even better. It's pure excitement, and those are the moments fans live for. Take UFC 294, for example. You had those two mega fights lined up: Islam Makhachev vs. Charles Oliveira and Khamzat Chimaev vs. Paulo Costa. But guess what? Oliveira and Costa dropped out at the last minute due to injuries. Who steps in? Two absolute beasts in their division, Alexander Volkanovski and Kamaru Usman, jumping in without a full camp, putting their reputation on the line. That's what the UFC is all about, and it's this high-level competition that makes every moment count. Whether boxing will ever reach that level, well, that's a different story. But there's another thing boxers seem to forget these days: self-promotion. It's not enough to be a great fighter, you've got to make some noise. Talk may be cheap, but it sells tickets. There are only a handful of fighters who know how to grab headlines. In this day and age when our lives are plastered all over social media, you'd think that boxers would be all over it, right? But no, not really. While some fighters are masters at building their personal brand and making headlines, many others fall flat. See, it's not just about how hard you can punch, it's also about how loud you can shout. Fans love a good show, and that includes all the pre-fight trash talk and drama. Remember the Logan Paul vs. Dylan Dennis showdown? This bout, along with the Fury vs. KSI fight, took place on the same card in Manchester. And what happened next was nothing short of jaw-dropping. These fights reportedly clocked in a whopping 1.3 million pay-per-view buys. Compare that to the 150,000 pay-per-views that Devin Haney and Lomachenko, two of the best lightweight fighters, managed to sell. What's the secret sauce here? Well, Dennis turned up the heat on social media, throwing shade and trash talk like there was no tomorrow, and fans ate it up. They wanted to see these guys who clearly couldn't stand each other settle their beef with their fists. And guess what? The hype sells. Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis made us care about their fight, and it shows in those astonishing pay-per-view numbers. Muhammad Ali, the man was a master of self-promotion, turning every fight into a spectacle. Whether you loved him or hated him, you tuned in to see what he'd say or do next. But in today's boxing landscape, that kind of charisma and self-promotion is rarer than a unicorn. Most fighters are content with letting their fists do the talking. But let's face it, that's not always enough. The Fury clan wasn't short on controversy this year. Tommy Fury went head-to-head with KSI and things got heated. Fury was initially named the winner on a majority decision, even though he lost the point for some dirty shots to the back of KSI's head and didn't exactly shine in the fight. KSI was, to put it mildly, shocked by the decision and filed an appeal. But hold on to your hats, because in a plot twist even Hollywood would be proud of, that majority decision was magically transformed into a unanimous win for Fury. They said the judges messed up the math or something. Now, you gotta wonder, was there some bias in those judges' decisions? Is boxing losing its street cred? It feels like they're trying to shield one of their own. I mean, how does it look when a pro boxer gets schooled by a YouTuber? Now, let's talk about Ngannou, who crossed over from MMA to his first pro boxing match against the mighty Tyson Fury. People were like, no chance for Ngannou, not even Fury himself believed it. But boy, did Ngannou turn the world upside down on fight night. Many thought he had the W in the bag, but that's a whole new story for another video. Just imagine if Ngannou had actually pulled off the upset against Fury. It would have flipped the script, especially with Fury and Usyk lined up for a December face-off in an undisputed super fight. If this kind of stuff keeps happening and boxing street cred keeps taking hits, fight fans can only put up with so much. They want the big fights, they want fair decisions, and they want to see their beloved sport kick butt on all fronts. In the end, when the final bell rings and the judges deliver their verdict, it's a truth that goes beyond the scorecards. Fight fans know who the genuine victor is.